It's all about three lovely ladies this episode. Mandy for all things knitting, Carol for all things sewing, and yes, we haven't seen her for ages, Áine. For knitting. Hello, welcome back. Good to see you all again. And look, it's still daytime. It's March. So the clocks have gone forward, and I know the clocks have gone forward in many places across the world. And obviously season 2, Dark Mode in the Potting Shed, it's been all about being cosy and snug inside in the dark because we're in winter. So this season draws to a close. This is the penultimate episode I'll be here in the potting shed, and I expect our last episode will probably be positively light because it won't be dark here till 9-10 o'clock at night. But it all fits in quite nicely because here in the UK, fingers crossed, non-essential shops open on April 12th, so not long to go. So it will be interesting to see what we do in the future, but we'll still be there, and I'll still be talking to you, sharing updates and keeping you updated on what's happening in the shop, stock, arrivals, new wool, new fabric, and obviously what we're all doing. And I can hear you all already. I can hear you going, ooh, what's that knit you're wearing, Stuart? And yes, it is the Harry Styles cardigan. It is just so snug. I actually didn't realise I was going to like it as much as I love it, as I do now. It is just a lovely snug cardigan. Now remember, I did the smaller version. When I started to sew all the panels together, I decided I wanted more of a bomber jacket feel. So if you go back a couple of vlogs, I'll link it in the description below, you can actually see how I changed from the original version of 6 panels to my version of only having 4 panels, 2 on each side. So Áine, we used to sit together and we used to talk all things wool and knitting, and because we were both learning together, we would ask those newbie questions, and that was quite good in itself in sharing information and growing our community together. But I haven't had the chance to sit with her for the last year because we've all been at home. So I thought it's about time that we checked in with her, and we're going to chat to Áine and have an update on how she is and what she's been up to. Hello!
Welcome back.
Good to see you all again.
Nice to be seen.
Always, and you are seen.
Oh yeah. So this week we thought it would be fun to talk about us, how we got stuck in, and we're both, well I'm...
Rewind, got like...
Stuart is always hanging with threads and balls everywhere.
So that's where we're up to with our project. So that's where we're up to with our projects.
No.
So brand new week. Ooh.
So the next one, you have lots of blue footprints.
So
There's
you-
either Smurfs or...
So you crush all the leaves up and
I just can't do what you said.
It's like the squash Smurfs. That was very funny in my head.
and some
Okay.
yeah
Have you swallowed?
yeah on is it a knit or a not knit? So
Knit or not a knit?
if you get it wrong,
Oh.
but if you get it right, yes, here's to 2020.
2020. It's going to be an awesome year, I've
Won't it
decided.
just? Yes.
Full of all the good things.
I'm going to be dyeing lots of wool with woad.
I'll probably be dyeing lots of hair at various points.
Hello!
Hello.
Hello! Hello! Hello!
Hello.
Hello!
Hello.
Oh, that was a delightful episode.
Welcome back.
Good to see you all again.
Oh, nice to be seen.
And look who we have. It's Áine, everyone. God, it's been so long since we've shown you to the world again.
Hasn't it? I've kind of forgotten what we do when we get on these. I'm just like, hi, nice to see you. And I've just realised we're both matching with our lovely yellow.
Yes, this is Áine, and Áine, it used to be me and Áine together, wasn't it, in the shop? It was partly down to you where I started it all from.
I basically joined Stuart and asked him lots of questions about sewing and knitting and crocheting because I was still figuring it out. So,
but then, of course, March last year, COVID hit, and we haven't been able to sit together since, have we?
No, it's been. I actually really quite miss it, just hanging out and talking and sharing what's been going on with projects and seeing what people are up to. And I can't believe it's been a year.
Yeah,
it's been mad. So.
Tell everyone what you've been up to then.
I've been keeping pretty busy. Thankfully, we have a weekly catch up with a few friends, with Jen and Ting, who some of you may remember. So catching up with them every week and having a crafty morning. So it's actually been really good because it's inspired me to finally finish my Harry Potter quilt. I think I showed that at some point.
It was in the gallery. It was in the gallery. Yeah.
And I've been doing random cushion covers. They will turn up in a gallery at some point. I took a notion last weekend and did that. I made chalk buckets. I made my first top with darts. I'm still knitting. I don't know if anybody remembers this. I'm still knitting this jumper. One day you can kind of see the pattern, the tree pattern.
Oh, is this the one with two yarns, the alpaca and the kid silk?
Yes. Yeah, it's actually three in one. So we've got two of one of the alpaca and two of the silk. So it's got that orange running through it, which is quite nice. The lighting isn't great, but you can kind of see.
Yeah.
You can see the tree.
I can see, yes, the tree leaves kind of thing. Is it roots or?
Yeah, it's basically, no, they're trees. So you can kind of see it there.
That's a very good, yes, yeah. Oh, sometimes it's nice to have those projects that are a long term. What is that cat doing? Damson.
You think you're a cat? I've got a cat on my lap.
I know, Gigi. Oh, she's a spitting image of my damson, but she's going nutty, crunchy nutty, we say. But anyway, as I was saying, it's nice to have a project where you can keep coming back to it long term, and then you do other projects in between.
Well, I think that's pretty much what I've been doing, because I've got the sleeves done and I'm now about halfway up the body and I've just got one more of the repeat and then I have to tackle the yoke. The yoke looks really scary, so I have a feeling I might put that off for a wee while. But yeah, I've been keeping busy, just doing lots of little projects and doing lots of gardening. I'm getting excited for spring.
Yeah, it's a great time of year, isn't it? It's exciting. So what have you been ripping the old stuff out and putting new stuff in, new bedding or new soil?
Not as much. So last year we did a big, massive garden makeover. Actually, as a random aside, I'm actually going to put together a bit of a garden makeover video that I started doing and I got reminded, and I'm actually going to do that. So that'll turn up at some point on my own channel. But last year we ripped out loads of the garden that was not in great shape, fresh compost. So this year it's a lot of, we put in veg beds. So I'm sowing a lot of seeds at the minute and get my tomatoes and peas and kale and all that ready. And we got a new veg trug. So if those of you don't know, it's a beast. We got a small size, but it's still huge. It's like, what is it, about a meter? I'm asking my husband who's sitting on the other side of the camera, but it's quite sizable. So that's going to be full of all the salad stuff. So lots of veg and salad going in and loads of plants. And it's just all the bulbs are coming up. So my tulips are coming up and the daffodils are in full swing. And it's just...
It is a lovely time of year. And it looks lovely because your craft room is at the bottom of the garden, isn't it?
Yeah. So I get to walk down anytime we are on a call. I get to walk down with the camera and I turn around and show you all what I'm doing each week. But yeah, it's quite nice. So I get to spend time down there with the doors open generally, and you can hear all the birdies and you look like you see all the flowers, and it's just the best thing. It's the best thing.
And during that, I mean, well, for all lockdowns, really, we have been very privileged to have that, haven't we, really?
Massively so, massively so, because prior to this we lived in Brighton and we would have been in a block of flats,
Yeah.
and I would have very much struggled. And it's just been so beneficial having the garden and having that outside, because I work from home anyway. So I'm in front of a screen anywhere between 8 to 12 hours, depending if we have events on. So I have some really long days. So having the garden, especially on the weekends, I very rarely look at my computer, look at my screen. So it's so good to get outside. And they do say it's very good for your mental health to grow plants, because you're thinking about the future and you're thinking about, you know, positive future reinforcement, basically. So it's
Yeah, I
definitely
suppose that idea of seeing it grow as well, isn't it?
massively
You get
so.
excited about how much further they get each week or each, yeah.
No, it's the best thing, because like when I went out and the bulbs were coming up, I was like, oh, I don't know what I've planted. I'm very excited. I thought the garden had magically reproduced loads of tulips because I didn't remember planting tulips. Turns out I did. But it's the best thing. And I've been doing, aside from gardening, I'm quite lucky. I'm still teaching yoga online as well. So I've been teaching some of my yoga classes still online as well. So
because you would do that every like Monday, didn't you, before lockdown?
So I was teaching Mondays and Tuesdays. I was teaching about 4 to 5 classes. And now I'm just teaching on a Monday and a Wednesday evening after I finish work. And it's really nice. It's been really nice because I've got friends from all over joining me, from all over the country and all over the globe. So that's been really, really awesome. So
I think from everything about all this lockdown, and every country's had so many different amounts of lockdowns, but regardless, the whole Zoom thing, the whole, you know, like we are now, has made the world even smaller, hasn't it? Because people have Zoomed with, you know, because people have set up groups. There have been knitting groups, online groups where you could join in for free, and loads of new people have been, you know, you make loads of new friends.
Oh, massively so. And you know, some people get a bit Zoom fatigued and things, but the benefits have been just so powerful, like you said. So after our crafty morning last week, for example, I immediately went on to another call after I had some lunch, and there was people from America. We had people from, like, they joined in. It was really early for them. We had people from Germany, from the Netherlands, from all over Europe joining in, and it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we did one, I've done it twice now with the Fibre Hustle Boys, and actually it was Aran who said, we want to see Áine.
Oh, yes.
But I had a bingo with them, and because they are Seattle, they did it. They arranged one at lunchtime, so that it was our evening here. So the online community have been great, and that's been really, really important.
Yeah. Oh, massively so, massively so. I'm obviously very much looking forward to being able to socialize in person with everybody, but I'm hopeful that some of the regular Zoom things that I do with people will carry on, so I can continue to see them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it will be a shame once you've set all that up, especially with the ones where you have been meeting people from abroad and getting together. It would be a shame for that to just suddenly stop. I wouldn't have thought it would either, would it? It just might not be as frequent.
Yeah, exactly, because people would be too busy running around outside, probably with their arms flailing, just being excited to be outside again. So
oh, it's great that you've been able to carry on working as well, though. So you've had your work and your yoga and all your crafting and your gardening.
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate that, because I think I was already well established at working from home, so I already had some good routines in place anyway. So I'm very, very fortunate that I haven't been too negatively impacted.
I mean, you taught me a couple of things, because I went from being with loads of people every day to suddenly then being at home, and like, what do you do with all that time? And routine was really important. You're having time points where you do things.
Yeah, like you and your running, you've been covering some serious mileage with your running. Oh my god,
that was my saving grace for lockdown, because I was really struggling, especially when it came to the end of that first lockdown. It's like I couldn't cope with being in all day. It felt like I hadn't achieved anything, whereas that run was like, all right, I'm going to go out now, and it felt like it was one of those things of breaking up the day.
Yes. Yes, and you can't, and you were going for serious runs. You weren't just going for a run around the field and you're back again.
Well, to be fair, that's how I started, because obviously I would go to the gym and I can't do the gym. So I would start with like a 20-minute walk, and it would be intervals where I would I'd walk a minute, then run 10 seconds, walk a minute, run 10 seconds. And I gradually swapped the intervals around. And now, this week, I did, what did I do? Rather than a distance run, I did a timed run, and I ran for an hour and a half.
Oh my God.
No, an hour and a half. A year ago,
That's ridiculous.
I would never have even entertained the idea of doing cardio. But now there I was running around Helmingham Hall and various areas for an hour and a half. But it's wonderful, isn't it? It's wonderful getting out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're a runner as well, aren't you?
Yes, I don't run as much as I do, but I now do massive long walks whenever I can. So like 5-mile walks, so it's quite nice. I've done longer than that accidentally. Went for a walk once, me ended up 4.5 hours later. It's like, I should probably sit down now. I think I'm kind of done now. So,
but again, we're so lucky with our surrounding countryside, aren't we?
Oh, massively so. Like I'm very, very grateful that we moved out. Not only did I get to meet awesome people, but I now have the countryside, and we have cats, and the cats have also kept us in. So
next to someone, have a cup of tea and a chat. And I can't wait to do that with you. Sit in this shop and sit next to each other and talk all things wool and sewing and everything.
It's going to be so nice. I'm really looking forward to it. So.
Well, thanks for coming on. Lovely catching up with you. And yes, everyone, this is Áine. It would be me and Áine sitting next to each other. We're sitting next to each other virtually. And hopefully we'll be back again soon with it. But lovely seeing you, and I'll see you I'll see you tomorrow anyway for a catch up.
Yeah, exactly. I'll see you tomorrow.
But hopefully our audience will see you again very, very soon.
Yes.
Cheers, Áine.
Bye.
Just brought back memories of when we used to sit together in the shop, talking to you, sharing ideas, showing our finished objects, or getting stuck with patterns and asking for your help. So lovely to see you, Áine. Lovely to catch up. And as I say, fingers crossed, when I'm open again from the April the 12th, I can see you. And then hopefully, we're hoping by perhaps August or September, we can then be able to sit down together in the shop. Right, can you remember this? A pattern by Rosso Cardinale called Intersection. It's a lovely cardigan, and it's got the colour work involved. And in the last video, I was talking about the short rows, because there was some short row shaping, and then I had to start the yoke. Well, I started the yoke, and I got all your wonderful advice off Instagram. Look at all these little clips here with your advice on how to do the Fair Isle colour work. Basically, everyone said, keep it loose. Did I keep it loose? Clearly I didn't. Though I thought I had, because I was telling myself, that teacher in me, right, keep it loose, keep it loose. But as you can see from some of these pictures, it still looked a bit tight and puckered. I went back to Instagram to ask for advice. Many of you said, steam block it. And I had a go at steam blocking it. And yes, actually, on the front, it kind of did settle down, but on the sleeves it was just a bit too puckered for my liking. And every time I kept doing a round, I kept thinking, right, I'll do another round, keep it loose and see how it goes. Oh, still a bit puckered. I'll do another round in the hopes that it would magically flatten. But every time I got to the end, no. And I just thought, I can't, when something's just not right, it niggles away. And I just thought, no, can't do it. So I did this. Yes. Pulled it out. Pulled it right out. And there we are. Back down to joining the sleeves again, and the yoke's all gone. So I thought, do you know what, before I start the second time, let's check in with Mandy and let's talk about Fair Isle, or colour work, as some people call it, stranded work, and let's see what tips she can give me and you on Fair Isle knitting.
I'm Mandy. I've been friends with Stuart for a very long time. I knit. I've knitted since I was about 7 or 8. I knit prolifically and constantly, as you can see. I'm wearing a jumper that I've made. I'm a full-time teacher as well. So knitting is my downtime.
Well, let's put this forward first of all. With regard to knitting, are you a English style knitter when you're like? Because remember, this is knitting in the round. So your English style, is that right? Yeah,
I am. I tried continental style, but because I've been knitting for such a long time, and my brownie leader actually taught me to knit. She taught me the English style. And that's what I work with. So
I'll try and show an example here. So I'm now actually where's my grey? Where's my grey? So you'd be holding the yarn in your right hand, and you'll throw, yeah. So when you're doing Fair Isle, you'll knit, say, 5 or 3 with the grey. Will you just drop and then pick up, or are you one of these where you might hold 2 strands?
I've done a lot of colour work, so I hold 2 at the same time.
Do you?
I do. I have tried it holding 3 at the same time, but that gets a bit tricky.
And you're holding English style as well. You don't.
Yes. Yeah. And you just twist your hand ever so slightly to get the colour that you want to go around the needle.
And then when it comes to carrying and catching the flow, what do you do there?
I twist. I twist my hand, and it brings the floating yarn up, and then you carry you knit from underneath then, so the floating yarn is above, and it just then catches it.
Now, that does mean your balls are going to get twisted, doesn't it? Does it, or does it not?
Well, it depends on how you want to do it. When I'm doing Intarsia or small amounts of Fair Isle, where it might be 3 or 4 rows, I use yarn bobbins like these.
Ah, right.
And they are brilliant because you can wind your yarn, I've just dropped it, you wind your yarn around like so, and you continue going. But when you want to knit, it doesn't come undone.
Right.
And that means that you can have the yarn loose, quite a length of it, and then when you've finished using that colour on that row, you just do it as short as possible, and it hangs and it doesn't tangle. The other way to do it is to use, I've seen it done several ways, use yarn bowls, and you have a different yarn bowl for each colour, and you untangle them at the end of each round.
Is there a right or a wrong of where you're holding 2 yarns, or does it just depend on your style or where you're from?
It depends on your style. It depends on your level of ability, how experienced you are at doing the Fair Isle, whether you hold both yarns at the same time or you hold one, drop it and pick up the other one. It very much depends on the person and their technique. There's no right or wrong way. All I will say is, though, if you're carrying a colour for more than, say, 3 stitches, you need to hook that colour in with you, so that you're getting short loops on the back and not long loops.
So this is what I have been learning about. That's about carrying the yarn. Now, I think I've already kind of cheated there, because the ginger was every I did 5 grey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a ginger, 5 grey, and I thought, oh, will 5 be all right? But technically, I've probably gone a bit too many there, have I?
Yeah, I would have hooked it round the grey yarn on the 3rd stitch.
On the 3rd stitch. So this is the notion, what they sometimes say, carrying the float. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So
that's your floating. The ginger is your floating yarn.
So that should have been caught. Now,
Yes.
when I was also doing my research, I got a bit snowed under with people saying how to catch it. Because you twist it. Now, does one yarn go over the top or one yarn go at the bottom?
Well,
does it have to be a certain way, or does it not matter as long as
it depends on, again, your own technique and how you prefer to do it. But the reason I say shorter loops on the back is better is because you're less likely to catch it when you're putting the garment on and off,
right,
especially in the sleeves. And the last thing you want to do is put your finger through a float and then pull the yarn tight and damage the garment.
So when you're,
Yes.
what point do you notice if you are too tight? Do you notice it straight away? Because like when you look at that, does that look tight?
That looks fine. It actually looks really good. You normally don't see it being too tight until you're 3, 4, 5 rows up.
Right, okay.
Because it's how the whole garment lies.
Okay, and that tightness is purely because when you drop the yarn and pick up the new yarn colour, you've pulled it too tight, so you've scrunched everything together.
Which is why I always do a very, very small float loops on the back, because as you're catching it, as you're moving the garment along your needles, you're actually naturally pulling the float to the right length. Okay,
I think when I went for 5, because I thought, I think I was lazy. I was thinking like, have I got a twist on the 3rd one each time? But does the twist come quicker to you holding them in your right hand?
The more you practice it, the quicker you'll become.
When do you recommend using a bobbin, or is it just down to personal preference?
Definitely when you're doing something like Intarsia, or colour work that has several different colours on the same row. So with the Intarsia, where you're designing a picture, the picture might look really straightforward and very simple, but actually, so the dinosaur one I do, which is an Aran weight yarn, you've got the dinosaur on the front and it looks like the whole thing is just one block of colour, but actually you can see there are lots of different sections to that. In the dinosaur one just uses 2 colours, but you've got the tail, and then you've got a gap, and then you've got some of the back, and then you've got another gap. So I tend to use the bobbins then, because you're going between lots of colours all in one go.
I see there, but where is the best place to change my yarn for the grey? When I change to start a new ball?
I thought you meant you were completely running out, in which case you would be in a bit of a pickle.
No, I've got that new ball to start soon, and it's
when knitting in the round with your one, because it's going to be steeked, I would say at the steek line.
Okay.
Because you'll be finishing that off anyway. If you're not steeking, it doesn't really matter where you end or start the ball of yarn, as long as the method you use is secure enough. So a lot of people use the rolling technique, where you splice and roll the ends of yarn together. That only really works when you've got yarn with a long thread in it.
Yes, like a staple.
And you have to be really good at doing it for it to be secure, especially nowadays with most wools and yarns being machine washable.
Yeah.
There is a version of what they call the invisible knot.
Oh, I've had a go at
tie-
that. Yeah.
where you can tie a knot and cut the ends really, really short. I've used that, and unfortunately, somewhere along the line, I didn't get the knot quite right, and it came undone in the washing machine, and that was the whole garment ruined. So I tend to use a reef knot. I do a slip knot to start with, and then when I go round and finish all the ends in, I do a reef knot, and I tend to weave the ends in.
And do you think it, because every time I change colour, to my new ball of yarn, when I start a new colour, I always seem to get a little bit of a gap. So I've started to, I was thinking, if I wasn't doing a steep, maybe I would change to a new ball, sort of maybe at the back or round there.
Doing it near where you've got an area of the garment. So under here, this is quite a stress area.
Oh, right.
When you're moving around.
Yeah.
So this garment, I've had to join the yarn underneath. I've had to start a yarn underneath, but I wouldn't join where there's a stress area, because you're asking that yarn to cope with the join as well as the stress of the garment being moved around. But I've found over the years the reef knot and weaving in the ends is the most secure way that I've come across of actually finishing or starting and beginning a ball of yarn.
So tell us about the jumper that you've got on now then. Is that a recent finish knit?
This is a very recent finish knit for the first time ever, and my husband and I have been together for 21 years. My husband bought me some yarn from your shop, from the wool patch, for Christmas, and this is the yoke of it. It's a real collaboration between companies. It's a drops pattern, which is free online from Guy Studio, and it's called Forest Vines. And that's because of these trailing increases that you do.
Yeah.
And it's a Katia yarn. It's the Azteca.
Yeah.
Which I fell in love with the very first time I saw it in the shop.
I remember giving you, I was thinking of getting it, wasn't I? And there were a couple of other Katia yarns, and you went, oh, I like the look of the Azteca. So I got it in.
And is it selling? Does it sell?
It's really brilliant, because in the shop, you know how small it is. We don't have much space, but we have an Aran hand wash, an Aran machine wash, both solids, but we don't have an Aran variegated. Azteca is exactly that, isn't it?
It is. I don't know if you can see the variegation on the sleeve.
Beautiful.
But I sorry.
As that was a Garn Studio drops pattern, was that top down or bottom up?
It's top down. So all the increases, the increases are in the yoke, and the increases at the neck, you increase every other stitch. And then when you come down the yoke, this is the first set of increases.
Oh, clever.
Where it seems to split. Yeah. And then the next set is further down where it splits as well. And then you get to the end of the yoke and you go into stocking stitch.
Fabulous.
So
so
and it was a quick knit, but they recommend you use, I've got the pattern here, I think it's kid silk, which I'm allergic to. It's two. You use drops alpaca and kid silk, so you use the two yarns together, but because I'm allergic to mohair,
that fluff,
it just, I can't have it near me. And the Azteca came through. When I looked at the needle size, matched perfectly, so I decided, right, let's have a go at this and see how it turns out.
I'm just going to chuck out loads of pairs, and if you can, say which one you prefer, all right? Aran or chunky?
Aran.
Stocking stitch or garter stitch?
Depends on the garment.
Right, straight knitting or in the round?
around as much as possible.
Ooh, right. Say in the round, or like, for example, socks or sleeves, DPNs or magic loop,
Magic loop.
cables or slip stitches. Cables, all right. Moss stitch or double moss stitch.
Depends on the garment. For a baby, it would be single moss stitch. For a toddler and upwards, double moss stitch.
Block your garment or not block your garment.
Depends on the yarn.
Oh, right, okay. Swatch. Swatch or no swatch? Are you a swatcher or no swatch?
No swatcher.
And needles, bamboo or steel?
Deal.
Oh, there we are. Oh, that was fun. Oh, great. It was wonderful chatting, Mandy.
Just want to share my mug.
Oh, look at that. Born for knitting. Forced work. Cheers, Mandy.
No problem. Bye.
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 Oh, thanks, Mandy, for that. It was wonderful. And when we can meet up again properly in the shop, perhaps what we can do is do some real close-up knitting of looking at your hands. Perhaps I'll get the camera onto Mandy's hands and show how she holds the yarn. Now, talking about the shop, take a look at some updates of new wools and new fabrics that we've had in over the last couple of weeks. Plush fabric, dimple, also known as minky or cuddle fabric, now in 4 colours: mallard, petrol, mint and grey. This fabric comes in at 150 centimetres wide and is £11 a metre. We've also had a stock delivery from Higher, my favourite knitting needles. We've got the 9-inch fixed circulars, yes, little 9-inch cable, and the needle is fixed to it. Perfect for sock making. You can just go round and round and round. These retail at £7.80. We also have new sock yarn from the West Yorkshire Spinners and Winnick Mum called Seasons. So some lovely yarns there, and that lovely plush fabric, cuddle fabric. Oh, so nice. I've made a little cot quilt, and rather than patchworking it and then quilting it, I've done the patchwork top and I've put the cuddle fabric on the back, so it could be like a blanket to lay down and change the little toddler, or a pram blanket, or it could also be used as a cuddle comforter as well. So a good little idea for what to do with the cuddle fabric. Now, speaking of other new yarns, I did an Instagram post. Just checking out. Oh yes, I did an Instagram post a couple of weeks ago talking about new yarns, because we've had to stop stocking drops. Well, that's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? We've had to stop stocking drops because of Brexit. Oh God, it's a big mess. They said we got the deal, but they said it would still be nice and easy, but it isn't at all. Couriers don't fully know what they're doing with paperwork yet, and distributors also aren't fully aware of what is needed. A lot of the stuff is still stuck at ports, so shipping is a lot more delayed. So many companies, myself, are waiting for stock, and there is a backlog, and obviously COVID is impacted on that as well. So I've started to look for other brands, because Drops said we will only stock to Britain if you make the minimum order of £1,800. Is that right? 1,800? Yes, £1,800. And that's a huge order for a little shop like me. So that's basically wiped me out. So I can't have that anymore. So I started suggesting new yarns from the West Yorkshire Spinners, who are based in the UK, Rowan, who are based in the UK, Malabrigo, who aren't based in the UK, but they have their Europe distribution centre in the UK. Boom! That's great, isn't it? So I've started looking into them, looking at Rios and Rasta. that looks really nice. So I then asked for your advice on new yarns of these companies, and many of you said that you liked Malabrigo and their ethics, and many of you also said Rowan with regard to their pure worsted. So I got some, and I have had a go at knitting some swatches, because pure worsted is recommended for a 4.5mm needle, and we've had this discussion before. Worsted weight is an American size, even though worsted was kind of here in the UK yonks back in Norfolk in the village called Worsted, where it all started from. But it's from our point of view, from the UK, it's a worsted weight is a thick DK, or a thin Aran weight, hence the 4.5mm needle. And I thought, well, I'll try a ball, and Rowan were wonderful and sent me a couple of samples to play with. And I've done a sample on 4mm double knit, classic double knit, 4mm. And then I thought, well, I'll try a sample, swatch on 5mm. Because I thought, actually, this yarn could be very versatile. It could be a double knit, it could be a worsted, and it could be an Aran. 3 in 1. Now, if you've used Rowan pure worsted wool, can you let me know in the comments below? I know some of you have already told me on Instagram. I know Martin at Knit365 has told me that he loves pure worsted and has used it. Some of you have also said it's your go-to really for jumper knitting. But if you've had any experience of knitting it as a double knit or as an Aran, because I'm looking at these swatches, so there's our 5mm, and that's not loose at all. I don't think that is overly holy. You know, I pull that. This has been blocked too. And let's go to the 4mm needle, show you a close-up of that. A lot dense for sure. It's not as floppy, but it looks still reasonable, doesn't it? So what I'm going to have to do now is count and compare the 4 and the 5mm needle to projects and see how many rows out it is or how many stitches out it is. If you cast your mind back to last year when the Sewing Bee was on, we did our review episodes with Ting and with Áine. And we were talking about the episodes, about how well the contestants did and so forth, reviewing the makes and looking at the patterns. And just talking about it and enjoying the show from a non-professional point of view. And what was actually interesting, out of those YouTube videos, we've had a big response on people watching them and joining in and subscribing. And one subscriber was Alayne, and she got in contact with me via email and said how much she'd loved the videos and loved listening to our thoughts as we reviewed the episodes. And we just started chatting. And as you know, as you do with emails, you chat to and fro. And a friendship was formed. And over those chats, I then began to realise how wonderfully talented Carol is. She is a master tailor, a Haute Couture specialist. She's got over 30 years experience in the industry, both in Savile Row and at a variety of leading fashion houses. She knows it all and does it all. And she has been wonderful because she's been teaching me. And I've learned some skills from Carol over Zoom, because we've all been doing Zoom, haven't we, over this last year. And she's helped me out with one of my, well, nearly finished objects. And you know that Katia have been doing their own fabrics now, and we've talked to you about Katia fabrics, their wonderful pattern books. It's wonderful. They are patterns for young children, from newborns up to about 9, 10 years old, in a whole different host of styles of garments. And I wanted to make this. Ta-da! And she's helped me with the neck. And we've talked about this before with knitting patterns and sewing patterns, where the pattern assumes the end user has an already gained knowledge, a knowledge level, and that is kind of irritating. And sadly, as much as I love these patterns from Katia, the case happened with this. They basically said in 2 or 3 sentences, fold, do this, do this, do this, and it's done. And if you are a newbie sewer like I am, you're still learning, 3 or 4 points just isn't enough, and you do really need like 6 or 7 points and probably 6 or 7 pictures. I went over to YouTube, and YouTube didn't really have enough there, but through my chats with Carol, boom, she helped me, and we had an evening talking about bias and all the different ways of doing the neck, and how to have this showing or not showing, because it could have been rolled right over and folded, but I went for the classic rolled over and hand stitching it down. And I think that was the wonderful thing. She taught me how to hand stitch it down using the invisible stitch. And it's a bit like the hand stitching in the binding of quilting when you're doing the binding. That actually is my favourite part. And sometimes we're so busy and we're so quick in chucking it all through the sewing machine that we think that the hand sewing is going to be a faff and take too long. So we try and find, not cutting corners, but we try and find different ways on the sewing machine because we think that will be quicker. But actually, it's not. And that sometimes the fiddlier things are harder on the sewing machine, and the more likely is you might make a mistake and have to rip it out, seam rip it out, sew it again, rip it out, seam again. So actually doing it by hand, this was a lovely, relaxing, calming thing to do in itself, as well as then having a lovely finished neckline, because I had more control over it. I could fold it over, I could have the clips there as well to keep it in place, but I could then keep manipulating the fabric and then just sew the invisible stitch. Now, what Carol has done, she has started her own YouTube channel, and she is making those, like the tutorials she did for me, into videos for you. And she's starting right at the beginning, and rightly so. As a tailor and a haute couture specialist, it is all about the hand sewing, and it's about the tailor, the person, the skill in the hands, isn't it? Not about the machine. So a lot of it is basics about what you do with your fingers and your thimble and sewing. So take a look at her channel. All the details are in the description below. And over time, she'll be making more of them. And hopefully, maybe as we get back together, get back to meeting, you know, being in the shop together, we can actually meet up live and we can do live videos. That'd be great. And we can share that knowledge together and develop our skills together. But it was wonderful having that Zoom, and she's helped me virtually finish my top. Now, it's not completely finished because the pattern again was a bit unclear. It has this lip that comes over where you have a button and a button. So it's kind of supposed to be folded under like that. And a button there. I've got a sew button there and a sew button there. But it's just a bit of a faff. So the pattern book got chucked across the room many times, but it's virtually there. But I'm just impressed with the neck, because the neck is just fabulous. So thank you, Carol, and I hope you go and enjoy looking at Carol's work on her YouTube channel. Have a look and give her a subscribe too. Yes, it's that time where we just slow things down a bit and we take a look at all the finished objects that you've been making over the last couple of weeks as we head into the gallery. Stunning work as always, wonderful, wonderful finished objects. And as ever, thank you very much for emailing them to me or hashtagging us on Instagram. And we've still got one more episode to go, so we've got one more gallery, so please keep emailing me your pics, and it's the usual address, info@thewoolpatch.com, or if you're posting your finished objects on Instagram, then if you just use the hashtag #thewoolpatch, then I will be able to find it, see it, and then share it in our gallery too. And it's been really nice because it does inspire people, especially now many of you are telling me what the pattern make is and the designer, and it just then makes it easier if someone goes, "Oh, I'd like to make that," then they can find the details really easily. A couple of vlogs ago, I was talking to you about Christopher Nevinson and his painting called The Arrival, which I had reproduced as a young artist at university. And I wanted to do my own version, rather than just the copy, which I love doing, wanted to be a bit more creative. I told you that I had this idea of perhaps doing the green in Long Melford. Well, I had started it and I've nearly finished it. You might have spotted it just there in the corner. It's probably easier to see now, it's a bit darker, but let's take a look. So there we are, it's the village green of Long Melford in a Christopher Nevinson style. So we've got the swooping road that comes in all the way down through the green. We've got the houses on the edge of the green. We've got the church. We've got the hospital there in the middle. As you come down through the green, you've got part of Melford Hall, the little building there. And then we've got the meadow at the front with some lovely things in there. Long Melford, Nevinson style. Have you been doing any new hobbies whilst been in lockdown? Have you started anything new? If so, let me know below. That's the end of our penultimate episode. What I will just show you, I'm just going to move you, pick you up, and have a glimpse of this. It's blocking as we speak. My Game of Thrones knit is done and complete, and pop you back down again there. And I'll be wearing that Monday. I'm off for a photo shoot to the seaside and into the forest. I'm going to be wearing my Game of Thrones knit in the forest, and on the seaside I'm going to be wearing Colin's wonderful pea jacket that he's knitted for me, and I'll be premiering that, and that will be on our both knits. I'll be showing on the last of the vlog of season 2 dark mode, because by then, in a couple of weeks time, as I say, it's dark now. What time is it now? It's 8 o'clock at night. So it won't be like this till 10 o'clock. So it makes sense to finish it all off and show you 2 fabulous knits. Thank you very much for joining me. It's been lovely chatting to you, and certainly showing off 3 lovely ladies with all their talents and expertise. Keep those pictures coming in for the final gallery as well of your finished objects. And until then, be safe, be well, and I'll see you for our last episode of season 2. Bye bye.